Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll give a minute or two for everyone to join in and connect. And as I don't know if your internet is like mine, but as soon as there's a cloud in the sky, it takes an hour to connect. So we'll give a couple of seconds for everyone to join us, and then we will get started on, sorry, I'm threading a needle while I'm talking, which is why I'm looking down. Hello. And then we will get started on lace basics tonight. Woohoo! So if I start talking really too fast, just stop me, raise your hand, do something, wave, I might see you, and say, slow down, slow down, slow down. Because I get very excited about lace. Lace is my thing. So yeah. All right. So we will get started since it is now 7:02 here in our Eastern time zone. Hello and welcome to our Zen Yarn Garden Tuesday tutorials. Tonight is Intro to Lace Knitting. I am your host for this evening. My name is Anik. Hello. With us tonight, we have Laura, who will be manning the desk with her magical fingers, and she's a very fast typist, much faster than I am. So she will be answering any questions popping up in the chat or interrupting me if it needs to be shared with the class. Also with us is Roxanne, although she's kind of hidden, but she might wave. Little hand. Hi. Roxanne, as you probably all know, is the everything creative director here at Zen. And we love her because she organizes all these wonderful evenings for us and just allows us to continue to share our passion, even though we are still, well, I don't know about you guys, but here in Canada, we're still pretty much on lockdown. So good times. All right, let's go right into lace. First of all, before we actually go to examples, we're going to talk about, sorry, that was my keyboard that just fell. It's all good. We are going to talk about what is lace. Well, short version, lace is yarn overs, so increases, and decreases. Long version, lace is yarn overs and decreases arranged in a pretty pattern. That's all lace is. So there's going to be simple lace. There's going to be intricate lace. Is there complicated lace? No, never. Because lace, once you know the basics, once you know the symbols that are used, and for that, great tutorial from Laura from last week. So definitely go have a look at reading charts, which was our last week's tutorial. Once you get to know the nomenclature of lace charts, there's nothing complicated, ever. There will be more intricate laces that take a lot of time and a lot of concentration and that have, 170 rows and not a single repeat. Yay. And there will be some very easy patterns that are just repeated. So what is lace? Increases and decreases together. Now, a little tiny bit of information, which I'm very excited to share with you tonight, because I just found this out myself. I did not know that different laces had names. And by different laces, what I mean is sometimes we will go to my hands now. Sorry, if you could.
You're going to have to start the video because I accidentally stopped it.
All right. We are going to, no, not stop recording. Where are my hands? There are my hands. All right. You're going to
let me add
there.
There you go.
All righty. So two different types of increases and decreases. Sorry. Sometimes we have the decrease and the increase glued together. So here we have knit two together and a yarn over immediately glued to it. This is called simple lace. Now, sometimes your yarn over and your decrease So the yarn over is way over here, and the decrease is all the way over here. Now this is called fashioned lace. Amazing, isn't it? I had no clue that the two different methods, which are both lace, one is called simple, the other is called fashioned. Look at that, how fun. All right, moving right along. First of all, let's have a look at knitter's tools. So knitter's tools, you will want a whole bunch of these guys. These are stitch markers, in case you hadn't noticed. Stitch markers will be your best friend when you start lace knitting. Why? Because you're going to be putting them after every single lace repeat so that you are making your life easy. We've got the tools to help ourselves out. My gosh, use them. There is absolutely no shame in using 20 gazillion stitch markers if it helps you. Anything goes if it helps you. So stitch markers are a girl's best friend, well, after diamonds, although you can knit your diamonds. So stitch markers. Another thing that you will really, really, really enjoy, especially when you're starting out, is a humble little yarn needle, which as knitters, we probably all have. Now here I have some, it's attached to some cotton, which is a different color from the yarn that I'm using. Now, why would we need this? It's called a lifeline. Why is it called a lifeline? Because it is a lifeline. If ever anything happens and, well, let's say it honestly, if you screw up so bad that you just can't fix it on the spot, this lifeline will save your bacon. So we will have a look at how to use the lifeline in a very short time. And last but definitely not least, I'm just going to go back to my face here. The lace knitter's number one most important tool, water. Water is going to be your absolute bestest friend in the world as a lace knitter. Why? Because when your lace is going to come off the needles, it's going to look like this. It's going to look really gross and bad and icky, and it's going to be all kind of scrunched together and really just, ew. You're going to be sitting there going, I spent 60 hours on this, but blocking, which is why water, whether in a spray bottle, steam format, or actual wet sink or tub of water, because you can wet block, you can spray block, you can steam block lace, depending on what it is and how much you need to block it. Water is your best friend, and it is the most important tool in your toolbox for lace knitting. So there we go. No blocking, blocking. Now, I would like to point out that this is the exact same swatch. Both of these swatches have 20 stitches and 2 repeats of the same lace pattern. Ta-da. Blocking, my friends, your best friend in lace knitting. So without further ado, I am now going to share some examples of charts. And we're going to actually go to Laura's PDF from last week. Now, can everyone see my screen? Yes, you are sharing screen. Yes, perfect. Now, this is exactly what I knit for the samples that I just showed you for the blocked and unblocked versions, is this exact stitch pattern. I did exactly 2 repeats side and 2 repeats up, and it gave this. Now, it just so happens that I also have it in a 1 repeat and 1 high. So we're going to have a quick look at the last row of this chart, because it's the one that has the double decrease. So we did a tutorial a few weeks ago on decreases, where we looked at all the right-leaning and left-leaning and double decreases. So right-leaning, left-leaning, and centered double decreases. And I would invite you to go check that one for all the decreases that can pop up in lace. So we are going to go, I'm just going to pull up my, well, I don't need my pattern for this, but well, we can't share the screen and, oh well. So basics of lace knitting. Do you remember how I said it was yarn overs and decreases? So here in my chart, I'm going to do a yarn over right here, decrease these 3 stitches into 1, do another yarn over here, because if I'm increasing 1 stitch, I need to decrease the same amount. So if I need 2 yarn overs, I need to decrease 2 stitches. We'll have a look at the, I'll show you how it's done, and then we can have a look at the actual pattern. So 2 stitches, yarn over. So if you're not familiar with a yarn over, this is maybe a little advanced for you, but please stick around. Centered double decrease. So centered double decrease, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we did a whole tutorial on that. I'm going to slip 2 as if to knit 2 together, knit 1, and then pass the 2 slip stitches over. So I've now decreased 2 stitches. I only have 1 yarn over. Another yarn over. There we go. So now I know that I've got 1, 2 stitches increased, 2 stitches decreased, and we're done. Now, as Laura so very lovely, very well explained last week in her basic reading chart tutorial, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, your return row in lace is going to be purl, because a lot of the times you're going back and forth. Yes, you can go in the round, you can do lace in the round, you can do lace flat. Either or will work. But for the purposes of this demo, we're going back and forth. And there we go. We now have the top, the tip of our point. Now I'm going to show you on the, quickly on the reading charts. There we go. Now what I did is row 11 here. So we did the first yarn over, the double decrease, and the second yarn over. This is the row we just did. And I right now just purled what would be row 12. Because here the wrong side rows are not charted because it's simply purl back. Now, remember this little guy? Yeah, this is our best friend. So when you reach the end of one of your pattern repeats, so row 12 was the end of this pattern repeat, you might want to put in a lifeline. Now, a lifeline is just a piece of yarn. I'm using cotton yarn for my lifeline just because I know that no matter how hard I yank on it, it ain't gonna break. So this is why I use cotton yarn. If I'm using very, very, very thin yarn, because in lace knitting, oftentimes we will be called to use actual lace, which is 1,000 yards plus per 100 grams, or even less than that, which would be cobweb. I would use a thinner cotton. But for general purposes, a DK cotton will work pretty much with any weight. Because most of the time in lace, you're going to be using needles that are a little bit bigger than what is actually recommended for gauge on your yarn. So here we go with a lifeline insertion. Now I am going to scooch my needle through all the stitches currently on my needle. Now you don't need to do all of them at once. I just did 5. Pull that through. Make sure that I'm not skipping anything and keep going. So there we go. Lifeline has been inserted. Of course, I got caught on my own needle. There we go. Lifeline is inserted. It pops out one end, comes out the other. There we go. The only thing you need to be careful of is when you start knitting again, try not to knit this one accidentally into your lace. It's the only thing you need to be really careful of. And we will see later on in a few minutes why this lifeline is called the lifeline. All right, do we have any questions so far? No?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Is it just because I'm really boring or because I explain really well?
I'm sure it's because you explained really well.
I'm going to go with that. Hopefully. All right, so different examples of lace. Oh, actually, we are going to take a tiny little break. So I'm just going to do that. Hello, we are going to take a tiny little break because tonight, and you are all here for it, 20% discount. So lace is the word for the evening. Lace, L-A-C-E, as opposed to, you know, laces, which are still spelled, oh, English. Lace is the word that you use at checkout in order to get 20% site-wide discount. Now, one thing that could be really, really, really interesting that we have on the site tonight is the Find Your Fade kits from Anjamari. So when you buy the kit, I do believe the pattern is included when you buy the kit. And look at that. It's got a very, very, very simple lace pattern, which we will be looking at after the break. So a very, very simple lace pattern that's actually garter stitch. So it's even more simple than what I've been showing you. So this would be a great first lace project. Plus, you know, if you screw up on the first one, you've got 6 more repeats to get it right. So yay. Lace is repetitive. So for people who want variety all the time, this is probably not the best project, but I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? You got to learn to walk before you can run. All right, so Find Your Fade is a ginormous, ginormous shawl. This version, which is the version that's on the site, is actually 6 different colors of splatters. You can see it almost, it goes into different colors. So the 6 different versions of splatters, which in the balls look like these. Ta-da! So as a first lace project, this is actually really ideal because you're working with a light colored yarn. So it's easier to see, which is really good when you're starting out lace because you want to put all the chances on your side. So you want to be able to see properly. So light colored yarn, large-ish needles. I do believe she uses either, I think a US 6, maybe. I knit it too long ago, I don't remember, but it's a fairly standard size needle. And it's just nice and repetitive and easy, and you can let your brain relax a little bit oftentimes because lace can be, it requires concentration. But again, is it complicated? No, it's just.
We did have one question from an eagle-eyed knitter, and she asked, why was the final stitch on the even row knitted instead of purled?
Because I always add an edge stitch to my, we're going to find out earlier why that lifeline was necessary.
Oops.
My needle just slipped out.
Oh no.
When I knit my samples, I'm sorry, I'll get back to your question. When I knit my samples, I always put a garter stitch edge. Mm-hmm. So depending on the type or the size, here I have actually 2 garter stitches. And on the sample that I was knitting, which now does no needle.
Which is why the lifeline is in there.
Which is why the lifeline is called a lifeline. There we go, lifeline, why it is useful. On this one, I only have the 1 stitch garter edge because it's just a tiny little sample.
Well, so, and you wouldn't necessarily do that in the actual pattern, but
no,
when we're creating swatches, it helps the edges lay flat because stockinette tends to roll. So it's just an easy place to add a stitch. Some people also just slip the first stitch, and that can be useful in seaming, which is another tutorial we've done.
Yes, which I think all the links for the tutorials are going to be up in the chat tonight. So yes, a whole bunch of tutorials that have been leading up to all of this. So yay. All right. So while I was trying to answer that, my sample fell off my desk and my needle slipped out. So here we will see why the lifeline is so important. Lifelines are something that you can use basically in every project that you knit. If you're a little bit insecure, or as just an added extra precaution, if you've got something a little bit complicated or intricate, I should say, intricate cables, or even if you've got a repeated cable that, you know, sometimes, oops, we accidentally cross in the wrong direction, but we can't drop it down. It can be helpful basically for every project that you have that has a little bit of intricacy. So here we go. My lifeline, fortunately, is right there. So why is this called a lifeline? Because it's saving my bacon. Here we go. All I'm doing, you can see I'm just kind of stretching out the lifeline a little bit to make it easier to follow. Literally following the lifeline, picking up all my stitches that had fallen off my needle. I can even leave it there because now I'm going to start knitting from there. I lost nothing of my beautiful lace work that I spent hours making this sample. I'm kidding. All right, so lifelines are your best friend as a newbie lace knitter. Now, lace knitting, we did have a look, can be, sorry, lace knitting can be very intricate with very few repeats. And beaded, I actually spent time with a tiny little crochet hook and beaded these on one by one. Labor of love, my friends, labor of love. So we can have very, very intricate lace, but again, this is only a combination of increases and decreases. I know it's hard to believe, but trust me on this one. So if we have a quick look at the pattern, just a sample of the pattern, I'm not showing the whole thing because it is a paid pattern. Where is it? There we go. Am I sharing the right screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're good.
I'm good? Okay. I just can't see it.
Oh, where am I? It is showing the chart.
Okay, good. I just need to, there it is. All right. So if we increase a little bit, this is another thing. Help yourself out. If you need to print this and make it bigger to help yourself read the chart better, my gosh, do it. If you need a program, I don't use Knit Companion. I use a different program that I can zoom in on my charts. Use it. If you need to print it and cover up what's coming so that you don't get confused, do it. The tools are there to help you. My gosh, don't be shy about using them, especially since nobody's going to be seeing you use them except yourself. Why be shy? All right, so here we go. This is actually this part, or one of the central parts, which I'll show you again once we're done. But you see how it's just increases, decrease, increase, increase, corresponding decrease, decrease, increase, double decrease, so 2 increases. Anybody else seeing a theme here? Increase, decrease, increase, decrease, increase, decrease. That's all it is. Yes, you're going to come across a couple of things that you're going to be like, huh? But it's okay because everything is explained. And if you really don't understand what a special kind of thing is, and this is very out of the ordinary. Most lace is very, very basic. There are people out there to help you out. So, you know, ask, say, what is the symbol? I'm not understanding. Can someone show me? You will find someone to help you. But again, what is lace but increases and decreases? Increases, oh, increase, increase. Now, why do I have 3 increases all in a row? Because I've got a whole bunch of decreases all over the place. So increases, decreases, basics of lace. And it took me all of 30 minutes to tell you that, increases and decreases. So this is a very complicated, nope, intricate, not complicated, intricate lace pattern. So this was the that weird little stitch that I was showing you. It's actually just a slipped stitch that you kind of pass over the whole little thing. Actually not complicated to do. It's a little intricate. Decreases, double decreases, whole bunch of decreases, and increases. That's all it is. Now, sometimes you will come across a pattern in lace. Here's another sweater that I knit. Unfortunately, can't model anymore. So, sweaters can have an all over lace pattern that's just repeated. Now, again, increases and decreases, increases and decreases. That's all it is, arranged in a beautiful and aesthetically pleasing pattern. That's all it is. Now, very similar to the one that we looked at earlier, that looks like that, is yet another sweater with just a small basic stitch pattern that's repeated basically throughout. So simple, let's have a look at this stitch pattern. Oh, I'm about to run out of time. Oh, sorry, having trouble with my mouse. It's running away on me. So let's have a quick look. There we go. So if I increase this again, here we have, everybody see? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So here we have the 6 stitch repeat. Look at that, 6 stitches. So yes, if you want, you can put a stitch marker every single time, and it's okay to do that. It's maybe a little excessive, but you know what? If it helps you, do it. So your stitch repeat pattern. And here we have knit, which we're all familiar with. Yarn over, which is an increase. And look at that, decrease, decrease, and decrease. So again, what is lace? Increases and decreases. So this little tiny chart, once it's repeated all over, gives you this. And there we go. So a combination of increases and decreases. Ta-da! Alrighty. So before we go, I wanted to show you this because in case you were interested in the Andrea Mari kit that we have for the Find Your Fade. Oh, showing you the wrong side, of course. There we go. So see how that these little eyelets, if I stretch them out a little bit, I get lace. Yeah, that's all it is. So let's have a look, because sometimes lace won't be charted, it will be written. And doing this quickly, and I apparently lost it. 1 second, sorry about this. Find your fade, there it is. So here we have, we're going to be following section 4.
Ooh, that highlight color makes it a little hard to see.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna not highlight, we're gonna make it bigger. Can everyone see okay? All right. So now again, just showing you a small pattern, a small part of the pattern, because this is a paid pattern, so we don't want to run into any copyright issues. So I'm going to show you on my teensy weensy sample what we are talking about. So here she uses a lace pattern, which is very simple because it's actually in Garter. So knit 1, yarn over. These are your edge stitches. So we're not going to be too worried about that because it is an increase on a shawl. What we are going to be paying attention to is the knit 2 together, double yarn over, knit 1, repeat. So repeat from the start. So knit 2 together, double yarn over, knit 1, knit 2 together, double yarn over, knit 1, 2 wherever it tells you. Then you do your middle stitch, and then you're basically mirroring on the other side. So what all does that mean? Well, we're going to stop sharing. I'm going to open it up to keep it there. So knit 1, can everyone see my hands? Yep.
Yep.
Yarn over. Now start. Knit 2 together, decrease, double yarn over, 1, 2. Simple as that. If anyone needs to see that again, double yarn over once, twice, double yarn over, and knit 1. Knit 2 together, double yarn over. Now you're probably going, yeah, but you're doing 2 yarn overs. Doesn't that increase by 2 stitches? Well, she actually takes care of that on the return row. So I just did knit 1, and I think we have enough to do one last one. Knit 2 together, double yarn over, knit 1. Now row 2 and all wrong side rows. So I'm just going to share my screen again. Knit 2 in all wrong side rows, knit 1 yarn over, so that's your edge stitches. Knit to the marker. Oh, look at that. Remember how in some of the lace patterns, I told you most of the times your return row is just going to be purls? Well, this one's even easier. It's knits. That's it, knits. The only thing that you need to remember is that you're actually dropping that double yarn over from the row before. So stop share.
I was going to say, in this case, Andrea Mowry is using double yarn overs to create a slightly larger hole, not create multiple extra stitches.
Yeah. So what do I do with this double yarn over here? I'm going to knit it as 1 stitch. That's it. Knit, knit. Oh, look at double yarn over. Do I care? Nope, not at all. Is it always going to be that simple? Sometimes it'll be a little bit more intricate, but is it always going to be similar to that? Yep. And there we go. That is all the info that you need. You can't really see it. I will show you on the actual shawl. That is all that is. So knit 2 together, double yarn over, knit 1. That's all you need to remember for this entire section, because on the way back, you're just knitting. That's it. So it's a very, very nice way to introduce your brain to lace. And you don't even need stitch markers on this one because it's very, very simple. Now, one little trick, I'm over my time. Do we have any questions before I go on? Did we have any life or death? Oh my gosh, I need to know this or I will never be able to do anything.
I will tell you that if you cannot stay, our tutorial next week, Nick and I for the next 2 weeks are going to talk about color work. So we're going to talk about the different types of color work, and we're going to show you lots of samples, and then Nick's going to give you some tips and tricks for how to knit color work. I'm putting the link to sign up for those for next week in the chat right now. And for those of you who want to stick around, if you have any questions, we can answer those. Remember to use the discount code LACE for 20% off. We've got our Find Your Fade splatter kits, which is a perfect introduction to lace, and we've still got our grab bags.
Grab bags, which are also perfect for Find Your Fades.
Mm-hmm.
And even though there's only five skeins in the grab bag, you've got plenty of yarn to do a Find Your Fade.
Yep.
You'll just be doing 5 colors instead of 7, but using up more of your yarn. So yay, less waste. So there we go. Quick little tip before we go, because I'm really going over my time. Sorry. All right, so a little tip that I use. I'm just going to share my screen again here. When I'm knitting lace, because I oftentimes don't use a lot of stitch markers, to my detriment, but I'm a compulsive counter. So stitch markers are a little redundant for me because I count all the time. It's just, it's habit. It's what happens in my head. So for example, if I'm knitting row 1, in my head, I'm going to be going square 1 is knit. So 1 knit, 2 SSK, 3 yarn over, 4 knit, 5 yarn over, 6 knit 2 tug. I don't even want to know how the closed caption is going to do that. So in my head, that's what's going through is I know that 1 is a knit, 2 is an SSK, 3 is a yarn over, 4 is a knit, 5 is a yarn over, 6 is a knit 2 tug, K2 tug. So that's what's going on in my head. On the way back, if I was knitting back and forth, this was for in the round, so we're going to forget this one for now. We're going to pretend like we're coming back from the other direction because we knit in this direction on the uneven rows, and we come back, let's just say for demonstration purposes, on a purl row. So as I'm knitting my purl row, when I get to my repeats, in my head, I'm again counting 1, 2, I should be knitting a yarn over. 3, 4, I should be knitting a yarn over. 5 and 6. 1 yarn over, 3 yarn over, 5, 6, 1 yarn over. So I'm always checking to see if my yarn overs are where they should be as I'm going. So if you forget a yarn over, all of a sudden you're off and you're like, what? Then it's easy to actually just flip and look at it and read your knitting to see where the yarn over that I missed is. So if ever you're off on your stitch count, either you missed a yarn over or you missed a decrease. Because what is lace? Increases and decreases. Corresponding increases and decreases. That's all it is. So that's one of the little tricks that I use in my head every time I'm on a return row, just to make sure that my yarn overs are in the right place. So if I was coming back, for example, on row 4, I'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yarn over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yarn over. I'm not actually creating the yarn over, but I'm knitting a yarn over. So if I'm not knitting a yarn over on 6, I screwed up somewhere. So little trick from someone who absolutely loves to knit lace.
Well, if you're working with larger repeats, sometimes it helps to put your markers in, because if you know you're supposed to have 20 stitches between every marker, it's much easier to count 1 to 20 than it is to count 1 to 200. So,
and 700.
Right. Well, and as you knit more and more lace, you'll get more used to it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't sometimes put them in anyway, because they will save you.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Just like a lifeline, stitch markers and lifelines, they are very useful tools. Use them and enjoy lace knitting. I mean, it's so awesome. I love lace. And remember, you're gonna want to block. So on that happy note,
can I just ask you one question?
Yes.
I'm making a dress, lace dress, which I don't know, because I just fell in love with it. It was from the spring summer Vogue knitting catalog, and I thought, oh, this is so cute. It's called Deep Dive. I'm going to do that. And but I'll tell you what, it's 167 stitches.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of made my swatch, and it was the right what do you call that,
the right gauge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But am I supposed to, do I have to block that somehow and
yes,
and then recount
yes,
it or refigure out something?
Yes, you absolutely. Lace is the one thing, especially a lace garment. It is the one thing that you absolutely must block.
But then once I block it, what is the difference that I'm going to count or see? Are my stitches not going to, they're certainly not going to be the same as my swatch that I just knit.
So ideally, you're going to be blocking your swatch.
Yes. Like
you're going to be blocking your garment. So if you are going to be wet blocking your garment, a dress, you're gonna want to wash it, right, so that it, you can get the max blockage that you can. So you're gonna want to wet block your swatch and pin it out.
Yeah.
To, like, I did a maximum blocking job on this one. I stretched it just basically to the breaking point ish. But your dress, you're probably not going to want to block quite that much. You're still going to want to, stretch it out, because if it is lace, it's going to come off the needles looking like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even though I made gauge when I just did the thing.
Yeah. As a reminder, this is the exact same number of stitches. I knit the exact same thing twice. 20 stitches across, 24 rows up.
So is that going to inform something different for me then? Am I going to go up?
It could definitely, if you're measuring this swatch.
Yeah.
It could definitely happen that you're going to be knitting a dress that's going to be 6 sizes too large. So yes, I highly recommend maybe knitting your swatch and
recount. Okay, and then recount. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that.
You are very welcome. I can even this sweater that I knit here, which has this very intricate lace. So this one, the pattern calls for a 3.75. Now, I have no clue what that is in US. I'm sorry, I'm Canadian. So 3.75 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
My gauge on a 3.75 millimeter was like super ginormous. Yeah. So I actually had to, I went down to a 2.25 millimeter needle.
US one.
So this was a labor of love, people. Lace knitting, not going to hide it. It's time consuming.
Okay.
But again, is it complicated? No, it can be intricate, not complicated.
Right.
So you definitely want to block cables. You can get away with not blocking if you know the yarn that you're working with. I mean, there are a whole bunch of factors. Of course, I'm always going to tell you, yes, you need to swatch. Yes, you need to block your swatch. Yes, yes.
The thing about lace and cables is if you have a bunch of cables, they can drastically decrease the width of your garment. And if you have a lot of lace, it can drastically increase the width of your garment. So
exactly.
You do have to be careful if you're adding lots of elements beyond your regular knit stitches, that you make sure that you check what you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And good luck with that dress. Look forward to seeing it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. So if there are no more questions, because we have gone way over our time, I'm sorry, everyone. Have a absolutely fabulous night. And thank you so much for joining us. And remember to sign up to our 2 next tutorials, because we're going to be doing color work. Laura and I will be sharing the spotlight for color work for the next 2 tutorials. And then we have something special coming up in June. That's going to be fun.
Good night.
All right, everyone. Good night, everyone. And happy knitting as always.